Welcome, everyone. My name is Jeffrey St Laurent, and I'm excited to have a great client of mine, Michael Goodboe, on with me today. You went from starting a coaching business to creating a book, doing a full-time coaching business. So I want to kind of highlight that journey along the way with everyone today. So if we were to rewind back to when we started working together, tell us about kind of where you were in your coaching business.
Well, so I had started my coaching business, and I had gone through I think the evolution that many of us go through. I had, thought I'm gonna coach the world, and then I decided no, that's a bit too ambitious rather. And so I focused on the industries ultimately that I knew and felt an affinity with and could communicate with, and those were private security and engineering, which are two very, very big industries. But I didn't know how to get in touch with them in terms of marketing to them. I had a few. My former company was a client, but I wasn't able to really exploit that opportunity, if you will, to the extent that I could. And then I had another company that I worked with, and those two are still my main clients, but they have grown significantly. And that significant growth, I believe was really thanks to the program that I took from you, because I knew nothing about marketing. I knew I already had a very nice website, real pretty, but not doing its job. And so I learned a lot from you relative to all of that, and started putting it into practice. And so consequently, while I was taking the course from you, my business started growing. And I don't know if you remember that, but I just applied things right away, and it started growing. So that's kind of how it happened. So I think the greatest help was narrowing my market, really fully identifying my niche, which I had done I'd done it in general terms, but zeroing in on my niche, bringing everything together to meet the needs of my niche, and a big thing was talking the language that people in my niche talked. And what that meant for me was not so much reinterpreting some of the theories, because I'm an IPEC guy, and I really love IPEC, and I love the energy model and what have you, but to use the vocabulary that we use as coaches with people I coach is the best way to lose clients. So yeah. So I had to look realistically at how to properly reach and keep my client base, and so that was a big change for me. And then we talked about marketing, how to market. We talked about putting websites together, how to do it, the idea of giving something away and what have you. All of that stuff went into the new website that I developed. And it incorporates, I have a little voice in the back of my head, your voice, telling me what to do, and reminding me, give something away, and really address your niche and what have you. Tell them what you're going to do for them.
But the great part is that everything that we talked about, you applied and you did the work.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You did the work. So let's talk about the work that you did to get out there to get yourself paid that first year.
Well, it was not being afraid to ask for the business. I think that was a big thing. I kind of had to get over that. I was reluctant to ask for the business, and to view what I was doing as a business, right? To view it as a business.
Talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. So once I started viewing it as a business, then I started investing a little money. I would make a little money, and I'd invest. I mean, I would buy things for my business and what have you. And I'm continuing to do that. Each time I bill somebody, I use some of that money to pour it back into the business and enhance the business. And I'm just 100% dedicated to the idea of becoming the best coach I can become. And that's a work in progress, you know? And so, so I continue with training, and I continue with training not only with people like you, but with assessments. For example, I use a Hogan assessment, which is just an excellent assessment, pretty expensive, but I pass that on obviously to the people that I provide a service to. And so I'm continually building that business, building it. Not so that I'm going to work, well, this is me. I am retired. And so I guard that pretty jealously. And so I don't start work at 8 o'clock in the morning and quit at, 10 o'clock and what have you. I start work at a reasonable time. Normally I start work at 10. That's what I normally do. And we talked about scheduling too. And so I'm in here sitting at my computer definitely by 10. And then, I have to tell myself, hey, it's time for you to go do something else now, because otherwise I would just sit here. And so I've got hours and a pretty regular office hours. I won't say that they're as regular as maybe you would like, because sometimes I cheat. I'm in here on Saturdays and what have you. And so I view everything I do as a business and treat it as a business, within the context of me being retired first. Now, what I haven't done thus far is turn down business, but I've got to learn how to do that, because I was contacted by a local company to help them. They're passing on the business from father and mother to son and daughter, and it turned out to be, I did a lot of stuff with them, and a lot of coaching and what have you. But it turned out to be not the best experience, mainly because the father wouldn't let go, And so it was a real challenge. And I thought, I'm not sure I need this. I'm really not sure I need this, And so that's probably what I have to learn next, is how to not do things just because somebody calls me, In my case, as I said, I want to be the best coach that I can be. And I'm absolutely serious about that. And that doesn't happen if you're constantly working. I need space between my coaching so that I can truly sit down and figure out what's going on in people's lives and how I'm going to help them and what have you. And that's something that I personally jealously guard. I don't want to coach, 7-8 hours a day. I just don't want to do that, And when I get a job that's really kind of outside, it's stuff I can do because of my HR background, but it's not stuff I want to do. And so that's what I'm trying to balance.
Talk about the process of, asking for the money.
That was really interesting. And in your course, we talked about that, and we talked about, what to negotiate and what not to negotiate and what have you. And I took that all very seriously. So my process, being that my company is basically a B2B, business to business, right? I submit proposals, right? And people generally don't ask me what my built-in prices are. I have them, but I generally don't tell them what they are. I just don't do that, and I don't give. Well, no. Sometimes I will have to give, but I don't give on the price of my coaching. I may say, okay, I can take some assessments away, for example, but I don't negotiate on the price of my coaching. That stays where it's at. And so far it's worked out all right. I mean, if you say things like, this is it, these are my prices and what have you, and if you're prepared to walk away, you probably won't have to. But if they see that as non-negotiating with business clients, that's business, and they accept that. They accept that. So I will tell them, like they'll say, well, we need something a little closer. For example, I just bid a job up in your area, some telephone coaching, and they wanted. I recommended a 6-month program. They wanted a 3-month program. I told them that I would do it, but I was reluctant to do it. Mm-hmm. But then I did give them a bid for a 3-month program and cut out some of their stuff that I normally would put in the program, but I did not cut back on my coaching. Now, I haven't heard from them, the price of my coaching, that is. I haven't heard from them since I gave them my account, but that is an account. If they call me back and say, no, we need something cheaper, then I'm just going to say, well, there are a lot of people who do coaching. I can't, I won't roll over. I can't do that. And I'll tell you why. Because businesses talk to each other, they talk to each other, and they were recommended by one of my other clients, and so I used to be in business. I know how it's done. How much did you pay him, and can you talk him down, and all of that business, and so I'm not going to give them a special deal that I didn't give the other people, and I'm not going to give a special deal just to get the job. I'd rather give up the job.
Mike, talk with me about what got you to that point. How do we, you weren't like that.
I'm sorry?
You weren't like that when you started.
Oh, no, I was real reticent. I mean, I was real, I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to price. And I always felt, well, that's where I got kind of cheated at IPEC, because nobody told me how much to charge. And, you just have to reach your own area, your own pricing area. And my prices are a little bit high, but, I bring a lot to the table, and I remind them of that. And then I've got the luxury of not having to, to have this as my only job,
Yes, absolutely.
So I do have that luxury, but I think if you start giving in, then your work and your professionalism are devalued. They are devalued.
Mike, let's talk about your book. Talk about the process of writing this book and what it means to you that it's out there.
Well, the book, I have to tell you, I've coached some authors. And I was an author that you coached, and you kind of embarrassed me a couple of times, because you'd ask me how my book was going, because it's easy to get away from the book. It's easy to get away from it and to kind of lose interest in what you're doing, in your own writing and what have you. And I was kind of at that, but when you kept asking about the book, I wanted to report some progress. So that was a real motivator. But my book is about turnover, personnel turnover in business in the services sector, and I used the security industry that I know as the basis for explaining the models that I use in my coaching and what have you. I was very careful. I got the guidelines from IPEC, for example, and so I was very careful not to violate those guidelines, but I gave them some sample questions to get a feel for where they might be in level 1 through level 6, basically, not so much 7, but level 6, and show them. I show them in the book how turnover, first of all, is a product of the relationship between the first line boss, be it a supervisor or a manager, and the person who reports to him. That's the key relationship. All of the All of the research on turnover says that. And it further, that supervisor is the company to the individual. So he or she can run people out, or can be a good leader and keep people in. And then I quantify it. I show them how to quantify it and how to measure how much money they're losing from supervisors who are my way or the highway type people, and who in our language resonate at level 2. And then I go to each level and I talk about how you can tell at what level you're probably at or possibly at, and then not so creatively, but very definitely, I say, hey, if you really want to take the assessment, here's my website. So now I've got the assessment on my website. They can order it right from my website, along with other assessments that I use as well. So the book is a book that explains what I call the new leadership, which combines the IPEC model with traditional models like Maslow's hierarchy of needs and different theories of old, if you will. And then I find ways to invite people to buy my book, and to buy my book for other people, or to buy the assessments. And I really think that if I really get some business out of this, the assessment will come, or the revenues will come not necessarily from selling the book, although I've sold 100 copies already, and it just came out a couple weeks ago. So I've got that. But I think that once people start buying the assessments, that's where I'm going to make my money. So yes. The book is designed as part of my marketing. That's what it is. And it's got a catch in it. And the catch is, hey, come to me and I'll give you some of these assessments, and I'll do a phone debrief. Oh, and the way I sold copies of the book is, well, my former company wanted 50 copies just right out of the chute. And they're just going to send them to managers throughout the country. But another job that I did, I said, oh, and by the way, they need to read my book, because my training is going to build on what was in my book. So they need to read my book. And I priced in the soft cover version of the book. And then when I was talking to them, I saw other books that they were given their high potential people for this training program, and they were all hardcover. And I said, are you sure you don't want the hardcover? Because look, these are all. And so they said, oh no, yeah, you're right. We would like to have the hardcover.
Talk about the value that you received from the mentor coaching.
First of all, I took copious notes in my training. So I still go back and look at those notes every once in a while. Like when I'm thinking, like my website, as I said, I just had it redone. And so I went back and looked at the notes and said, okay, I got to remember this and I've got to remember that. So that was very helpful. And all of the tips you gave to us, were very helpful. And other people would say, well, I'm having trouble with this, I'm having trouble with that. And when you have, and I'm a former educator, so when you have somebody in a group, a training group, voice an opinion or have a question, other people surely have that same question, but they don't raise it, for all sorts of reasons. Maybe, hey, I don't want to take over the group, or I don't want to, do this or do that to draw the attention from everybody and what have you. But you put it together very well, because you gave us time to talk, each person. At the beginning, we talked about what we'd been doing and what have you, and then you went to a general topic, and then you closed with talking about what did we learn, and what are we going to do, and what's our plan, and you kept us on track, that was really helpful to all of us. The biggest impact was be careful with this negotiation stuff. If you have a price, stick to your price. That was the biggest thing marketing wise that came out of the training. And then the other stuff was just, Jeff, there's so many things in the training that were like tips worked into the whole program that I made notes of. And so, I mean, the website, putting together the website, giving something away free, the value for that, using, MailChimp or whatever. I'm starting that now. Those things that I didn't know how to do. I just didn't know how to do, and I was a little bit afraid of it, and knowing my audience, I think, was a big deal for me. For example, I just learned that my audience is really Twitter oriented. I'm not. I don't like Twitter, but I'm going to get on Twitter. I've got to get on. I am on Twitter.
You have to know.
I have to. And because it just dawned on me, I thought, I wonder what kind of social media, and this came from our training, what kind of social media do they like? I just assumed maybe they do Facebook, but probably not anything but websites. It's Twitter. And at least for security, and maybe for the engineers, it's something else. But by the way, I analyzed those two careers, if you will, and there's a reason why I picked those two, and the reason basically is that they have characteristics that match, like linear thinking and what have you, and so they're related in a sense, even though you wouldn't think they would be. But they are very much related. So to pinpoint just one thing, I think for probably one thing, the best thing was the don't price yourself so cheaply. Don't price yourself. Don't just be anything to anybody, because you diminish not only yourself, but you diminish the coaching industry, if you will. And I want to see coaches make some money, but I also want them I want them to be good at what they do, and of course, coaches run the gamut. I'm sure there are some who aren't very good, although everyone that I've met is good. They know what they're doing. But you can always get a cheaper coach. And so you got to be ready to let the business go. Thank you, and I have to thank you for much of this, because if I was working on my own, I know I wouldn't be where I am. So thank you, and I got a long ways to go. But you know what? I love what I'm doing. I'm having fun, and that's what I wish to anybody who's watching.